your roadmap to the latest in auto news. Welcome to Highway Herald. Today, we're diving into a major high-stakes showdown in the energy sector that's shaking up North America. Canada is threatening to cut its electricity exports to the United States, a move that could disrupt power grids, spike fuel prices, and trigger energy shortages. But this isn't just about electricity. It's part of a much bigger battle revolving around oil tariffs and political leverage. Buckle up, because this standoff could completely reshape trade, energy, and even daily life as we know it. Let's break down the 7 key chapters of this electrifying drama. Key number 7, the shockwave. Canada's high-stakes electricity move is sending shockwaves across North America's power grid. Canada has hinted at potentially cutting its electricity exports to the U.S., and this is no idle threat. States like New York, Michigan, and Minnesota are heavily reliant on Canadian hydropower, which accounts for an astonishing 95% of U.S. electricity imports. If Canada goes through with it, millions could face skyrocketing energy costs, power grid instability, and widespread blackouts. Industries like automotive, technology, and manufacturing, all of which rely on consistent power, could be thrown into complete turmoil. But this situation isn't just about energy. It's a strategic move in a much larger game involving oil tariffs. Canada is using electricity as leverage, forcing Washington to make a tough decision: secure alternative power sources or negotiate before the lights literally go out. This battle isn't just about kilowatts. It's about who holds the keys to North America's energy future. Key number 6, the crude realities. While electricity might be the headline grabber, Canada's real trump card in this game is crude oil. The United States is highly dependent on Canadian oil, with major pipelines like Keystone XL and Enbridge pushing millions of barrels southward each day. To put it into perspective, 67% of U.S. crude imports come from Canada. Even though domestic production is ramping up, a disruption in this supply would be like cutting the fuel lines on a high-performance engine. Everything comes to a screeching halt. But here's where things get messy. If the U.S. imposes stricter tariffs on Canadian goods, Canada might strike back by limiting its oil exports. That could send fuel prices soaring, leave industries scrambling, and throw global markets into chaos. The burning question is, can the U.S. afford to risk an oil crisis just to maintain its trade policies? One thing's crystal clear: energy isn't just a resource anymore. It's a powerful weapon in this high-stakes standoff. Key number 5, tariffs and tensions. The trade war between the U.S. and Canada is escalating, far beyond just steel and aluminum. With the America First policy driving the push for domestic production, the U.S. has slapped tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and consumer goods. In retaliation, Canada has turned its focus to targeting key U.S. industries, including energy exports. This trade war has real-world consequences. U.S. automakers, construction firms, and manufacturers who rely on Canadian raw materials are facing rising costs and disruptions in their supply chains. Meanwhile, industries that depend on affordable and stable power are bracing for higher prices. But the impact doesn't stop at the corporate level. Consumers are already feeling the pinch with higher fuel costs, more expensive goods, and market instability. The big question is, will this trade war keep escalating, or will both nations be forced to hit the brakes before things spiral out of control? Before we dive into key number 4, please consider subscribing to Highway Herald. Your support fuels our passion to keep bringing you content like this. Now, let's explore key number 4, a web of energy and trade, the cross-border connection. While the U.S. may dream of energy independence, the reality is that its industrial backbone is deeply entwined with Canadian resources. From oil and electricity to critical materials like nickel, cobalt, and lithium, Canada is a major supplier of resources that power industries like automobile manufacturing, technology, and electric vehicle (EV) production. Ironically, while the U.S. is pushing for an EV revolution, it remains heavily reliant on Canadian imports for battery manufacturing. Trade barriers and tariffs aren't just a nuisance for industries, they're also hindering progress. With supply chains at risk, industries across the board face rising costs and a slowdown in innovation. So, here's the real question. Can North America afford an energy standoff, or is collaboration the only way forward? Key number 3. Economic shockwaves, the ripple effect on industries and consumers. When trade tensions rise, the impact doesn't stay confined to the halls of government. It ripples out and shakes industries and consumers alike. From rising costs to supply chain disruptions and fluctuating fuel prices, everyone feels the effects of this economic standoff. As the situation develops, it's clear that energy isn't just about the power we use. It's at the heart of a much larger geopolitical struggle that could shape the future of trade, energy policy, and even daily life. They shake industries, rattle supply chains, and hit consumers right where it hurts, their wallets. A trade dispute between the US and Canada doesn't just stay on paper. It sends massive shockwaves through vital sectors, particularly energy, manufacturing, and the ever-important automotive industry. The US depends heavily on Canada's crude oil, natural gas, and electricity. Any disruption? Well, that forces industries to scramble for costly alternatives, pushing production expenses sky high and making sticker prices on new cars climb even higher. When supply chains are thrown off balance, whether it's a delay in battery materials, steel for chassis construction, or even raw components for EVs, it means automakers struggle to meet demand. That results in stalled production, skyrocketing costs, and frustrating delays for eager buyers waiting on their dream cars. And let's not forget fuel prices. When disruptions hit, gas prices climb, making every trip to the pump a painful one. The effects aren't just limited to big corporations. Even small businesses, local dealerships, and everyday consumers feel the strain. History has taught us a valuable lesson. Even the smallest shifts in trade agreements cause ripples throughout the economy. And with tensions rising between the US and Canada, industries and consumers alike are bracing for impact. Key number 2. The political chess match, power, leverage, and diplomatic maneuvers. Trade wars? They're never just about money. At their core, they're about influence, power, and strategic positioning. In this high-stakes battle, both the US and Canada are flexing their strongest muscles. Canada, knowing its immense energy exports give it leverage, boldly states, "We're not just a supplier, we're a power broker." Meanwhile, the US, committed to its America First strategy, is determined to cut reliance on foreign resources while still maintaining its grip on global economic dominance. So, the million-dollar question: who needs who more? The US leans heavily on Canadian energy, yet Canada's economy thrives on trade revenue from its southern neighbor. Energy exports have now become a serious bargaining chip. Canada hints at reducing power supplies, placing pressure on critical US states that rely on imported electricity. That's not just an economic issue, it's a national security concern. And this standoff, it's attracting global attention. Mexico, China, and other trade powerhouses are watching closely, calculating their own moves. With geopolitics in play, every decision in this dispute has the potential to reshape North America's energy future for generations to come. Key number 1. The price tag. What this means for your wallet and the road ahead. At the center of all these trade disputes, political power moves, and economic strategies lies one simple, unavoidable truth. How much are you going to pay? Your fuel, electricity, and even your next car? Their prices are all on the line. If Canada slashes its electricity exports, millions of Americans could see their energy bills spike, especially during high-demand seasons like summer and winter. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Gas prices? They could skyrocket too. Canada supplies over 2/3 of US crude imports, so any trade restriction could send fuel costs soaring. And when fuel prices rise, transportation expenses climb, making everything more expensive, from groceries to travel and even shipping costs for online orders. And what about EVs? Canada provides key materials for electric vehicle batteries. If tariffs hit, EV production costs will surge. That means fewer incentives, higher sticker prices, and slower adoption of electric vehicles across North America. Automakers are now facing tough decisions. Do they seek out costly alternative suppliers, increase domestic production, or cut back on certain models altogether? Every option comes with its own set of economic challenges. Policymakers now stand at a crossroads. This final stretch of negotiations will determine everything. The final lap. Where does this road lead? So, what happens next? Does the U.S. stick to its aggressive tariff strategy, risking economic instability, higher fuel prices, and further supply chain disruptions? Or do both nations come to the table, hammering out a compromise that ensures smooth trade flow, even if it means swallowing some political pride? This standoff walks a razor-thin line between economic protectionism and practical cooperation. And whatever decision they make, one thing is for sure: the future of North America's energy and auto industries is about to be reshaped, potentially for decades to come. And that's a wrap on today's deep dive into this high-stakes energy showdown. From threats of electricity export cuts to rising oil prices and bold political power plays, this trade war is shaping up to be one of the most consequential economic battles in modern history. Now, here's the big question for you. Will Canada's energy leverage force the U.S. to the negotiation table? Or is this just the beginning of an all-out trade war? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think. And don't forget, subscribe to Highway Herald for more deep dives into automotive news, trade insights, and industry updates. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a beat. Until next time, keep your engines running, and we'll see you on the next lap.